Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sports in high school.
Welcome to the Orange is the New Black podcast. I am your host, Ace Boogie, joined by my co-host, Zim. Zim, say what's up.
What's up, guys? We are here. We got a special guest again. You guys might know him because we had him before, but it's Geoff Hobson. How you doing tonight, Geoff?
Great, guys. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I guess you didn't learn your lesson from having me on the first time. So.
No. We had to bring you back on, especially to talk about this great draft that the Bengals had. And I guess that just starts with the first question I have for you is what did you think of the Bengals draft that we just had in 2021?
You said it when we were talking backstage, Ace, 7 linemen, right where the old school guys like it, I also like how the Civil War ended. The Civil War ended with a Reconstruction period. After Chase, you get Jackson Carman. And I think that's quietly huge because his dimensions not far off from the big fella from Oregon, and you spend an hour with Carmen, which I was able to do yesterday, which was I really enjoyed that.
Nice.
This is a smart guy. Guy plays 6 musical instruments.
Wow.
Switching to guard is going to be a hell of a lot easier than that. So I really enjoyed. Like I said, I think Chase and Carmen. That's a nice 1-2, and to follow it up with all those defensive and offensive linemen. I think hey, just exactly what they needed.
No, I had to agree with you. I think we just had to get the trenches right, and we had to get a player like Jamar Chase. How special do you think Jamar Chase can be? Obviously, you covered Chad Ochocinco, AJ Green, Marvin Jones, all of these great receivers, TJ Houshmandzadeh. Where do you think that he has the potential to rank?
Well, that's a tough question. The one thing I can say is after meeting him on Friday, the guy, he's bigger than I thought he was. Not tall. He's not tall, but he's well put together. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure what he's going to be. I'm not really sure what he's going to be. I know one historical comp has him with Eddie Brown. Very fast guy who was a master in the deep ball. That's kind of a similar height and size. But I think he's his own guy, fellas, because Chad had a different quarterback and AJ had a different quarterback. They had different schemes. They're going against a different kind of corner, from their era. So I think he'll be, he'll be different. I can't wait to see him because all the things you hear about him. The thing I love hearing about him is how strong he is, and just how strong his hands are, and that's something I'm really looking forward to because a lot of receivers, these rookies, have a tough time adjusting to the physical part of the game. But I think this guy was made for that part of the game. That's what I'm really looking forward to see. So I don't know what kind of receiver he'll be. It's going to be interesting. He'll probably. It sounds like already. Certainly from his personality, he's got a little bit of Chad, but he's also got a little bit of serene confidence like AJ a little bit. But that's I've been around them very minimally. I enjoyed meeting them, but I look forward to knowing him for the next 10 years.
Right. I think the Jamar Chase pick, I feel like it's kind of looked at a little bit different because it goes hand in hand with the Jackson Carman pick to me. The Jackson Carman pick, I know you both just now were very, very positive, I guess, on it. But the initial, drafting the Jackson Carman from the outside in, because from a fan standpoint or the public opinion or all these mocks always had Jackson Carman in the 3rd round. One of the things that Paul Alexander, and guys like Willie, kind of put this to bed, I think, right after the draft, is that he has the body and the build probably made for guard, and you spoke about that early on. Do you think that the Jamar Chase pick is kind of like tied together with Jackson Carman's success?
Well, I think they obviously knew what they had to do. They had to get a receiver, and they had to get an opening day offensive lineman, and they did that in the first 2 picks. How they were going to do it? Were they going to do it Sewell or Terrace Marshall or Sewell and one of those other guys? But you gotta like how they did it, because they went with Burrow's guy, I think in most years you say you got to take the tackle. You got to take the tackle, because in most years you're thinking, when are you going to have, you figure you got to have a winning record. You got to bank on having a winning record. When are you going to have access to a left tackle like that, or to a tackle like that? When are you going to have access? You're hopefully not going to be at 5 very often. And that's when you're going to get that guy. You're not going to get that guy out of the top 10, So the one argument was, the wide receiver, you're going to get, there could be a guy like Chase that falls where you're picking next year. If you say you're picking 19 to 23 or whatever, or hopefully number 32. But I think the thinking was, well, you can get a guy kind of like that. But I think the thing with Chase is, first of all, what he did with your own quarterback, so that's a completely different discussion that you don't usually have in these things. And, the guy was, he's exactly what they need. And I think they felt like Jackson Carman was there. And if he wasn't going to be there in the second round, somebody else was going to be there who was going to help him. So I think they felt like, we got a better shot of getting the receiver now who could be dominant, and we can still get what we need rather than the other way around. So, I think it worked out. I don't think they could have drawn it up any better, really, and then to get 2 extra 4th rounders and still get Carman.
Very, very key. Very key.
Made the draft. It made the draft.
You talk about the 2 4th round picks. I don't know if they keyed you into when they knew that they were going to move, because from what I heard, they said that they potentially could have stayed at 38. Do you have any idea when New England possibly called them and said, hey, let's make a deal?
I think they're probably talking all day. I think they're probably talking all day. That thing didn't happen on the clock.
Right.
I don't know when the thing got solidified or when the thing gets serious, but I'm sure that just didn't pop up. And I'm
some people thought that the extra 4th round pick was a sorry for spying on you a couple years ago. Do you think that there's any credence to that? Like, hey, our bad for videotaping some of your stuff on the sideline?
I think the league already took care of that. I think so.
Nah, it's something extra going, because that was that's great. That's an amazing trade.
Yeah, that was. I also think too, Zim, looking at this draft, I think they thought it ran out after 4, because as we know, half the prospects went back to school. So this was a reduced pool. And I guess so, because, and this is no knock on the kicker, but, obviously they felt like they had what they needed because they went and got the kick, they went and got the kicker, although the kicker was in need. I mean, I think that's something that's been kind of glossed over too, is that was a need probably just as much as a, speed receiver. You know what I mean? So, because they didn't really have anything in the can. So that was a need. But if they don't make that trade, they don't take the kicker. I mean, they're going to take something else at 5 there. But, it kind of all worked together.
No, I like that.
From a draft philosophy standpoint, it is kind of unorthodox to see a kicker in the 5th. But for me, I believe that he'll be an asset, and then that's different. And in addition to that, if that's your guy, it doesn't really matter to me. If it doesn't work out, it'll be heavily scrutinized, heavily. But if that's the guy for the next couple years, 5 to 6 to 8 years, then nobody will ever think back and look back at that ever again.
Well, go ahead, Jeff.
No, that's all right, Ace. Go ahead. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, for me, it seems like some of our fans are kind of acting like we drafted him in the 3rd round or did something like the Buccaneers when they took Robert Aguayo super early. To me, the 5th round is right around where that guy should have gone. So for me, like you guys are saying, kicker was a need. It was a huge need. And we saw how much of a need it was as early as the Los Angeles game last year. So for that pick, I don't think that it was a reach to take a kicker in the 5th round. Just personally,
That's kind of high, bro. You don't think that's very high? What about you, Geoff?
Robert Aguayo was like the 3rd round.
I think that was the. I think that was the 3rd.
Yeah,
I think that's the only. I think that's only the 3rd kicker in the last 10 years to go, like within the first 150 picks. Right. But I will say, given that by the time they picked that guy, they had already picked 2 offensive linemen that are probably going to make the club and are going to start at some point, and they had already drafted 3 defensive linemen. So before they get that guy, so I don't. That kind of he wasn't the 5th guy that they took. He was he was the 8th guy, right, or the 7th or 8th guy, and they had already knocked off a lot of their needs. They were playing with. I think they felt like they were playing at house money at that point because Dante Smith is a guy I think they see who's going to be eventually maybe start someday, and I think 4th round pick. That's what you hope, and. Shelvin is a guy that's probably going to come in and, it's that hit a need, and so did Sample. So, I mean, you're playing with house money. You already got your opening day right guard at number 46. So, and I think they felt like at the end, 4 rounds, that was about it. That was about all you were going to get of players. That's why they made the trade, because they felt like it was a hell of a long way down from pick 111 to that first to the 5th pick. They would have, see it if they didn't make the trade. They probably don't get Dante Smith. They probably don't get, Shelvin.
And the thing to me is, like, Dante Smith, I love those picks, but you probably aren't considering those guys as starters, day one. And the fact that the kicker can come in day one and start, that's tremendous value.
Yeah, right. I think that's the argument that Darren Simmons made was, the guy on that board, and you're looking at corners or whatever you're looking at, that's going to be a backup / developmental player. Whereas you got a kicker staring at you that you have confidence that he's going to be your opening day. He's going to be your opening day guy.
Definitely. So who were some of your favorite picks? We always hear, what certain people like about the Bengals draft, but who would be Geoff Hobson's favorite picks from this draft?
Geoff about to tell you, who cares about my picks? Nobody cares about my picks.
That's right. Nobody. Yeah. I do have, but I do like Common. Obviously a local guy. Very, love him. Smart guy. Here's the thing about nobody says about Common. The number 1 pick in the draft, Sunshine, right? One of the reasons Sunshine could be Sunshine was that guy was protecting his blind side for 2-3 years. I mean, the guy lost 1 game. It wasn't just him. Key guy in a great program. Great pick. And I like and I love the Shelvin pick after talking to Kevin Coyle about Shelvin after the draft. Kevin Coyle, the former Bengals secondary coach, who's now a defensive analyst at LSU. He says this guy he plays his best in the big games. Everybody was, talking about, they got to get a guy from, get an offensive lineman from Alabama and all that. And, Shelvin made mincemeat of that line, as well as every other line that he played against in 2019. That's a great pick. I mean, that's a guy, he can change your defense. Big man. We know what he could mean in, how, with the struggles against the run and to be in a rotation, with DJ Reader and Larry, and I'm gonna mispronounce his name, Larry
Ogunjobi.
Ogunjobi, Mike Daniels, Josh Tupou.
Yeah. So suddenly that's, and last year, remember, God love them. They were playing with Chase Covington and Xavier Williams, and God love them. Great guys, try hard guys.
Money.
That's just a tough road to hoe. So now you get some bullets.
Yeah, I feel you. I think a lot of different at the time of the pick, and I love the Shelvin pick, and I love the depth at the position. At the time, I will be honest, I was looking for more of a 3-tech defensive front guy that could give more pass rush. But when I started looking at Samples' film a little bit more, and then I started looking at the 7th-round guy if he makes the team, there's potential for guys to kind of kick inside in some of those nickel packages. And then I think for the scheme, if we're truly going to lose scheme in a 3-4, like Shelvin's perfect. Like that, like as far as the fit, it's a perfect fit.
Right. Who do you guys like?
I think I actually, believe it or not, I love Jamar Chase and Carmen together. I think that those are going to be some good picks. I also like Shelvin as well. Shelvin was one of my favorite picks, and the kicker for me as well. What about you, Zon?
I like Jamar Chase, and more Jamar Chase.
I should have known that was gonna be Zip's answer.
Nah, I'm joking. I really like Jamar Chase. It's no secret about that. I think I wouldn't call him generational, but I just think it's a unicorn situation for a guy that can maximize his potential with a team at this very moment with his guy Joe Burrow. It's just a match made in heaven. So I love it for all those different reasons. I also love the McPherson pick, the kicker. Flip round is really high for me, but if he's kicking for 50-something plus, it becomes an asset, and it's something that the Bengals haven't had from that position in a long time. And I'm okay with the growing pains of it as long as he's progressing as he goes along and he's able to hit from far away. I just think that's something that, especially the Marvin Lewis's teams, is that they were forced to punt a lot of different times where a lot of teams wouldn't have punted at these 40-something yard line situations that they put themselves in. So that was a really good pick. I think that Osai, we hadn't really talked about them. That's the guy that had a 1st-round grade on him. So to get Osai at that point, if you would have told me before the draft, Carmen would have been, the pick in Osai, I might have told you those 2 picks might have been flipped. So to get those guys and to get 2 4th-round picks, I mean, that was the draft to me. Those 2 4th-round picks was the draft.
I also think a guy to keep an eye on. I kind of like what I read about him is the running back from Michigan, Evans.
Chris Evans, yeah.
He's an interesting guy. He had a great pro day and a great and he was really great at the Senior Bowl, as Zach talked about. Interesting guy. I think he just kind of fell through the cracks. I mean, this guy had 3 really good years coming out of the gate. Got suspended for a year, came back. There was a new offensive coordinator. I think he only carried 16 times, but he's an interesting guy to watch. He's going to make a real big run, I think, to not only make the roster, but to get some playing time, I think. He's a little bit bigger than Geo, runs a little bit faster. And of course he's got a way to go to match what Geo does on 3rd down and all that. But I think he's a guy he's an interesting guy to watch. That could be between Evans and some free agents, maybe the back end of that room looks different.
Definitely. So Geoff, I had to ask you. I saw that the rookies got their jerseys, their jersey numbers. Notice one number didn't get assigned though, and that's 97. Is the door shut on Geno Atkins, or is there a possibility that he could be back?
I think anything's possible, but that was interesting that 97 did not get assigned. No question about it. But they're gonna. It's interesting about if you signed him, you'd have to keep him, I would think. So who goes? Which young guy goes? So. But that it's going to be interesting to watch. I think the next couple of weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, would Geno even want to come? Like, just out of respect to Geno, like that they have 14 defensive linemen right now. Like, to me, that's not even a situation I would even want to put him in. I really want him to get a ring, honestly.
Maybe get one here. Jeez, maybe he'll be a mentor. Maybe he'll be a mentor to these guys. I mean, I'd love to have They talk about Shelvin,
Right.
looking for some guys, looking for some, DJ Reader is going to be great for Shelvin.
Then let's call him. Then let's get him back. Then, if you believe in it and you think it can happen, let's call him.
You said he won't take the call.
He won't take my calls. We're in the same boat.
No, that's real.
There's a lot of guys on the D line. I mean, Geno or no Geno. I mean, maybe they keep 10. Maybe
that's going to be. I think that's going to be a super interesting battle. I think, like Zim is saying, it does make it somewhat of a numbers game for sure. But one thing that I wanted to ask you, Geoff, is that Zach Taylor said that the Bengals may not be done in free agency. Obviously, they haven't told you everything or what their plans are, but do you have any ideal targets that are in free agency position-wise where they could possibly go?
I think position-wise, they could be looking at corner. They could be looking at a linebacker. Could be looking at a wide receiver. But it'd be a backup. It'd be a minimum thing. It's not going to be a big thing. The big deals are, they're saving the money. I'm assuming they're saving it for extensions for Jesse and Hubbard. That's the assumption. So I don't think there's not going to be a lightning strike in free agency, but there could be a move for depth.
Definitely. Jim, you have anything?
No, I think Geoff covered most of the stuff that I was thinking. I really, really appreciate his input on all of this stuff because he's a lot closer to the team than I am.
Well, what do you think? What do you think they need? What do you think they need going into? You get looking at they're about 2.5 months from training camp.
Mm-hmm.
What do they need? What do you think they need? You think they need a wide?
If I'm them, I go get the tackle that just got dropped from the Bears. And it seems a little crazy, but if you want to just rule out all variables and everything like that, and I don't know the money cap situation now, but I forget the guy's name or whatever, but that's a starting tackle that could be put on the line, no buts about it. It takes all the pressure off of Carmen. You start moving guys around, and then we're talking about a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. And they only did that on insurance of they just drafted who I really, really like, and that was Tevin Jenkins in the draft. I really liked them a lot, and I wanted the Bengals to get him, but I don't think it fit the scheme based on the conversations that I heard, and I don't think the Bengals were really interested. But that is a guy that was my favorite offensive liner in the draft. But as a result, they released their Pro Bowl tackle, and he's out here. But if they really want to put this thing to bed, I don't want you writing stories taking up for any shortcomings of Carmen this year. That is one thing that I just think that is I don't want to hear about him converting to tackle and guard. I just really wanted to be clear and have this line set up for success, and we never look back and hit ground running.
I think for me, I'd take a Pro Bowler, but I'd actually take a look at Trey Turner if he's available at the right price that's nothing against Carmen because I got Carmen as locked into one of those guard spots, but the other guard spot is the one that I don't know as much about. So I think for me, if you were able to bring in someone like a Trey Turner and you give me Jonah at the left, you give me Carmen, or whether you want him at the left or right, but let's say we put Trey Turner at the left guard. You give me Trey Hopkins at center. You give me Carmen at right guard. You give me Riley Reef. I love that line. So for me, it will possibly be one of those free agent guards. Now, obviously, it depends on the money, but I think at this point, with us getting ready to rev up here, I think guys will probably sign for a budget. So I would love to get someone like a Trey Turner. And I think you also mentioned linebacker. I don't think that they've replaced the veteran snaps that they had at that position last year. So I wouldn't mind a linebacker either. And Zach Ertz is getting released, but I think that they're pretty set at tight end with the guys that they have now. But Zach Ertz, I think just the Cincinnati connection would make that cool. But I think that they're pretty much set there. And like you said, maybe corner is an option for them as well. But honestly, I think after this draft, they've pretty much well-rounded this roster out.
Don't sell Hakeem Adeniji short. You may be looking at your you may be looking at your left guard of the future. They like him a lot, and I think he showed he could play both tackle and guard. So I would not I wouldn't rule
Adeniji would be interesting. I would like that.
I would say don't sell Fred Johnson short as a good swing tackle. Like for me, Fred Johnson at the tackle position, not the guard position, is a legit option that I really, really believe in as well. For me, just talking about the kid from the Bears or whatever, it's just like every year I feel like you're having to you have to cover for them in my mind on a lot of different things, and what it is variables. So every day of my life, I'm in the business of deleting variables. The one variable that I see is Jackson Carman converting over. You're pretty much handing him a starting right guard. There's growing pains in the NFL, and as much as I believe in Jackson Carman, I just think that puts a lot of pressure on him, along with the pressure that's going to be on by public opinion for most people that feel as though Jackson Carman, that wasn't on their radar, that just thought it was a third-round talent. I just think it takes the pressure off of him. He's drafted really, really high. We all understand that he's the guard or the tackle of the future in all circumstances.
I think, you put him next to Riley Reif, you put him next to Trey Hopkins, and let him learn. I mean, he's going to be, I don't think the adjustment's going to be that. I tell you, yeah, he's going to go through some growing pains. He will. But he's a smart guy. He's going to adjust. The future is now, man.
Yeah,
I think, I just don't know. I think, at some point too, it's nice to think about bringing these guys in, but you got to think about age. You got to think about money. You get Jonah Williams. Let's go. It's time now. It's time.
It's let's go for sure.
And the energy, it's time. These guys, it's not like they've ignored the offensive line. They need these guys. They've either got to develop them, or they got to or these guys have to come play now. I mean, it's it's like I say, it's not like they've ignored it, and they've got nothing to show for it, whether that's because of what development or. But I think these guys can play now. With Williams, there's a big, the big question is, can he stay durable? That's the question. But you're not gonna get that answer with him on the bench.
I agree. Listen, the reason why I'm Team Chase is I argue with people every day of my life, telling them like y'all wanted Bobby Hart gone. You wanted all these different things. You wanted Pollock in there. You didn't want Jim Turner. You got that. You got Riley Reif in there. Oh, but he's old. I'm like, but look at what he's great at. You drafted Jonah first round, number 11 pick. I'm the captain of that. Like showing people what the Bengals did. But going into the draft, I'm gonna tell you, Jeff, it was not enough. People did not have enough. So now that's my fear, is that Carman comes in, because that is a big transition. And it's his job to lose. And I believe in the kid. I just don't want to hear people's mouths about I'm just so through with the negativity on the line, because now it is time to play. And I just want to make it very comfortable for him, because he doesn't deserve this unwanted pressure on him. It's not his fault that the Bengals drafted him in the second round and people didn't have him mocked, And I just wanted to be a smooth transition. And I want everything to be, cured in my perfect world. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, right. No, I hear you. I hear you, because you do, you wonder if that happened. I think Michael Jordan was probably rushed. And I think Michael Jordan could be a fine, I think he's a fine talent. But where's his confidence level? I worry about that. And, and so I see what you're saying. You don't want to get the guys, confidence shot, because I got high hopes for Michael Jordan, because I think he's remember he was 21 years old when they and they made him remember it was kind of stunning. That was they made him the starter right away, which is was he ready? I don't I don't know, but this is why with a guy like Pollock, he's got a fresh start. You know what I mean? So he should, and I'm sure he will. Mike's a smart guy himself. Blank slate. He can go away. He can go retool. It's a new start for him. It's a new start for the offensive line because of Pollock. So, but I hear you, Zim, about you don't want to. But I think Carman, and I obviously I don't know him well. I've read about him. I've spent some time with him. But I think the kid could handle I think the kid could handle pretty much anything. He's already been through the crucible. Look at the playing in that pressure. But talk about pressure. Man, he may think this is kid stuff after being at Clemson. Blocking Sunshine, right? This may be kid stuff for the guy.
Blocking Chase Young.
Yeah, playing in Death Valley is no joke.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like Paul Brown. Hey, Paul Brown would love him because he's been there before.
Right. Well, Jeff,
I'm told Mike Brown specifically asked about Carmen and didn't ask about Panay, like multiple times.
Well, I think they knew. Pretty. I guess they knew they wouldn't have a shot at him because they were going with your guy.
Right. Exactly. Well, Jeff, we would like to thank you for being gracious with your time tonight.
Thank you for being gracious to ask me on.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course, we got to bring the legend on. Obviously, Geoff Hobson, you can catch all of his stuff at Bengals.com. Do you have any special stories coming for us in the coming days that you want to tell the fans about?
Working on a Carmen story, trying to go delve into his life a little bit and what he's bringing to the table. And I think we'll have some Ring of Honor stuff will be coming out in the next couple days. Try to there'll be, I think there'll be something to look forward to. So there'll be, and then of course I just try to track down some of these draft picks. They're going to come in. I think next week they'll be here for a 1-day rookie mini camp. So there'll be some new faces and some new stories on there.
All right. Well, we look forward to it, Jeff. We appreciate it. And who dey?
Who dey, guys. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
That was Geoff Hobson. We just had him on, the legendary Bengals.com writer.
Is it live?
No, it's not. It's not live. We have another guest today as well, though. We brought in my man, Bengal Sands. What's up, Sands?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good, man. We're obviously we just spoke to Geoff Hobson about the draft. Obviously, I spoke with you during the weekend, during the stream and everything. Just wanted to get your thoughts just on the draft overall. Like, I guess if we could, obviously everybody loves Ja'Marr Chase, but just talk about what some of these players, I know that you've done some film breakdown and stuff like that. Just talk about what some of these players could actually bring to the Bengals.
Okay, yeah, sure. So Ja'Marr Chase, and I talked about this with Zim on his live stream. So really the thing you're looking for with Chase, and I think it gets overstated sometimes, like every number one wide receiver dictates coverage, but it's really like 5 elite wide receivers that'll dictate the coverage and force teams to play too high. So that's really what you're looking for in Ja'Marr Chase. And I mean, he could do it. You look at his 40 time, his ability to work downfield, everything that comes with it. I mean, what he did at LSU. So you're hoping that he can bring that to the Bengals, and maybe not this year, but in the future, he can force teams to play too high and rotate their coverage his way, opening things up for everybody. I think we've all discussed this a lot. Jackson Carman looks like he's going to be starting guard this year, and I think they're just going to keep him at guard, but I'm not positive on that. They like this versatility to play tackle, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're more looking for a tackle to replace Reef next year that isn't Carman, or maybe it's Smith, or because the Smith pick made me think like they might think that Carman might just be a guard. In the third round, Osai, I thought Osai actually came in I had no opinion about him before the draft, but I thought he was underrated afterwards when I watched some film, because the Texas defense, they didn't do him any favors. He was playing off-ball linebacker in 2019, and then in 2020, he was usually playing close to the tackle in a 5 technique or a 4-eye, and it's hard to rush the passer from that. So he only had 5.5 sacks, but I think he's better than that. Okay. Sample, I think, is going to be somebody who can rush from the edge, but also kick inside, either on passing downs or in college. He did it on rundowns. He was playing 3-tech and 4-eye on rundowns. So I think he has that ability as well. Maybe he has to bulk up a little bit. Tyler Shelvin, one of my favorite guys. Love a 2-gapping nose tackle. He's going to beat the hell out of a center. And 2-gapping is basically what it sounds like. You take 2 gaps instead of 1. So he's going to cover both A gaps when he's beating up on the center, or he gets a double team and he makes sure that those guys are staying on him and he's not moving. And he'll split it too, make a tackle. He's great at what he does. It's limited. I know people were upset because it's not a pass rusher. Deontay Smith is a developmental tackle. I haven't watched a ton because he's Eastern Carolina, and that's not easy to find.
Yeah, he's only played in one game as well. So
Yeah.
for this season at least. So.
Yeah, 2020 he only played in one game. You want to watch the newest film on somebody, not their old stuff. So
I learned the hard way with that with Jackson Carman for sure.
Yeah. So I think he's really just a developmental piece. It looks like he gained weight and did well at the Senior Bowl, but I don't know too much. I think after that was the kicker, and I don't know anything about scouting kickers. He looks good to me.
Right. As long as he can make 50-yard field goals, it's all good.
Yeah, he had a 55-yarder. That'd be one of our longest in the past couple of years. So that'd be great. Chris Evans, he seems kind of like Geo, and he took Geo's number. He's a great pass protector, and he's a great receiver. So
Right.
seems like he's going to probably not play as much as Geo because Geo had all the experience, but I could see him stepping into a similar role. And Hubert, I don't really know anything about either. I know he's a edge rusher that I think also can kick inside. Like we have so many of those guys. Hubbard's one too. So that's a quick rundown on everybody that I've seen so far.
No, I appreciate it. You're listening to Bengal Sands. He's on Twitter. I love his breakdowns and things of that nature. But I got to ask you something. How did you become like a Bengals fan? What was it about Who Dey Nation that brought you into this fandom?
Yeah, so I'm actually not from Cincinnati. I'm from Ohio, but more northeast, but not Cleveland. So what happened was my dad was a Browns fan and my mom was a Bengals fan. My mom became a Bengals fan because she lived in Cincinnati for a little time, and she was the manager of one of the McDonald's in Cincinnati. And I guess Boomer Esiason went through the drive-through, and so she had a connection with the Bengals. Then she just became a fan there. And then when I was a kid, I mean, it was like, do I want to watch the Browns or do I want to watch Chad Johnson? So
pretty easy decision to make there.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, way easy.
So in terms of like your film breakdowns, what was just your inspiration from that? Did it come from watching the draft back in the day, or was it just something that really piqued your interest?
Yeah, the draft isn't even like my main thing. Like I like watching the Bengals film more. I like watching the draft prospects that'll play for us, but this was more like it's the off season. I don't have anything going on. Everybody loves draft prospects and breakdowns of those guys, so I'll join that. Yeah, I mean, I played football in high school until I tore my ACL and meniscus, but that was I also played basketball. It was my first ever basketball game in high school. I stole the ball, went down, jump stop, two guys jumped on top of me, my leg went like down, split in half, and I was like, okay, that's the end of those careers.
Right. So what position did you say you played again?
In football, I was a 5'10", 180-pound left guard.
Okay. So you know a little thing about some protection and stuff like that. And that's what I was telling Zim, because we were having a conversation and your name came up and I was like, yeah, I respect Sands. And he was talking about how Mike Daniels was just like, yeah, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he probably had to play football. And Zim was like, no, I think he just knows what he's talking about. I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure this guy probably played football as well if he knows all of that technique and stuff like that. So it is dope to hear that you play football and basketball. So I never would have known that. So that's dope to know for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, some of it is stuff you learn afterwards too, but the inspiration comes from I played on the offensive line. So it's like those guys never get the love they deserve. You see clips of guys. The only thing you ever see are either pancakes or clips of a guy missing a block, but you don't see like a guy perfectly sealing a 3-tech from the tackle position. It's like, I want to highlight that. And then with Daniels, I was highlighting all the stuff he does that nobody notices. And he found me and he was like, yo, that was one
because he knows with you playing offensive guard, you know what those guys are supposed to do and what you would struggle with and what you would be worried about from that end.
Yeah. And man, he does so much good stuff. It's a lot like Shelvin at nose tackle is what he does at 3 technique, where he double teams, they're nothing to him. He just throws one guy aside. There was a play where he threw they double teamed him. The guy climbed to the second level and he just tossed Kevin Zeitler aside. And I was like, oh man, that's Kevin Zeitler. Right. That's not just nobody at guard. And he made the tackle. I thought that was awesome. That was one of the plays I think he found that I posted. I don't really tag players, but I just if they search their name, they'll find it.
Nice. Nah, that's dope, bro. That's dope. I actually myself, I used to play. So I started off and I was actually late to football. So I think I started off in the 7th grade. I was more of a basketball guy. Like,
No, me too. Like I like playing basketball more than I like playing football.
same, bro. I just happened to be, I think I was actually better at basketball, but when I moved back to Cincinnati, I didn't get to play as basketball as much. And that's when I kind of noticed the difference in Ohio when I moved back to Ohio. Because I'm originally from Ohio. My parents got a divorce. And so when they got a divorce, my mom moved us out to California. And so during the school year, I would be out there with my mom and I would play basketball every day. There was literally a park next to my house where there was basketball hoops. I had a basketball hoop in the garage. I mean, not in the garage, but outside of the house. So in the driveway. So I would play every day. And then I moved to Ohio and everybody's about football. Like, not saying that there wasn't a thing, but it was just more of an emphasis on football. And so I decided, yeah, I'll try the thing out. And started off as a running back. And I was just a natural at running back. Like, literally was about to, I think I had like a 98-yard run or something like that. I think my 8th grade year. So first year, I just was naturally pretty decent at the running back position. On defense, I think they started me off at linebacker. But back then, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just lining up and playing. And so then I did have the record for Wyoming middle school because I ended up going out to Wyoming in Cincinnati and Greater Cincinnati. And I had a sweep that was like a 98-yard touchdown run. And I thought that I had the record, right? Because I was like, oh, I got the record and stuff. The very next year, somebody else had like a 99-yard run the very next year. And then I got to high school and everyone wanted to play running back. And there were just too many of us. There was new guys that transferred in that were like coaches' sons, the running back coach and cornerback coach's son. So they ended up switching me to like slot receiver, but I was more of a running back, so I was shifty. And I will probably describe, I guess, my play style kind of as like Percy Harvin, where I could do stuff with the ball in my hands, like on reverses and stuff like that. But then I could also sometimes line up in the slot and then line up on the outside. So I started playing slot receiver. And then for some time, like probably my sophomore year, they were trying to use me as like a hybrid player. I was small in high school. So like they knew that I was fast. So they actually tried to play me at like the nose, like some kind of hybrid nose guard. Like I was a small guy. I just had to get around the bigger center and just try to get to the quarterback. And this was on like JV or something like that. And it's funny because the guy that's the coach at Wyoming now that got coach of the year by the Bengals, that was my coach. I remember him in 8th grade and in high school. And then they switched me to corner. And corner was the hardest position I had ever played. Like it gave me such more respect for what those guys do. And as a receiver, I kind of knew both sides of that spectrum. So I could relate to what you were saying when you were saying, knowing what somebody like Mike Daniels is capable of doing and what you're trying to keep him from doing and how hard it is sometimes difficult to grasp. Not saying that you had to play the game, but you know what it's like to be in that position and to see this guy do something that's unreal or to see someone do something that isn't easy is definitely something that you get from that vantage point for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I think corner might be like the hardest position to play just in general.
I used to be jealous of safeties, bro, because we'd have to play like man, and then the safety would just come over the top and just get all the interceptions, and it would definitely make me upset. But yeah, corner, having to judge a guy's speed, like I could only imagine what these guys have to do when you got a guy like Jamar Chase running at you and you can't touch him within the first 5 yards. That is insane. You're already at a disadvantage, backpedaling and making sure that you turn your hips the right way. So yeah, that's one of the reasons those guys make so much money. If you can get a really good corner out there that can shut those guys down, that's why they make the big bucks. And it's also why the receivers make the big bucks, because when you get a guy like Jamar Chase coming off that line, or AJ Green, or a Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco, it's hard to stop those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think corner almost relates a little bit to offensive line in that you don't hear about them unless they either make an exception or they mess up. It's like you don't see they perfectly cover a guy and nobody sees it, so they don't care. And then also you're usually, if you're pressing somebody, it's kind of similar like blocking. You're putting your hands on them and then you're backpedaling. You're working backwards while the other person gets to work forward, which is never intuitive.
No,
So-
I'm with you. And I always had enormous amount of respect for the offensive line. And maybe it's because I started out as a running back, because I knew if those guys weren't setting those blocks that I was going to be in trouble and I was going to get hit. So I definitely always had respect for the line and always knew the game was won in the trenches. And without those guys there doing their thing, that it definitely wasn't going to help the skill players in the offense for sure. But Sands, I just wanted to thank you for coming on. But before you get out of here, if you could just let people know where they can find your stuff on any of the social media platforms.
Yeah, I'm Bengals_Sands on Twitter. I'm also Bengals_Sands on Instagram, but I don't use it very often. So definitely check out the Twitter, and I'll be putting up film threads of every prospect we take. So look for that. Yeah,
so definitely be sure to check that out, guys. I think our man Zim is out having a natty reader right now. So I appreciate you guys for coming through. Appreciate you for coming through as well, Zans. And I just want to leave you guys with a who dat.
Who dat?
Hello, world. What separated your deep ball from everybody else?
My deep ball, it has a little secret sauce to it, man.
Never get too high, never get too low, but just keep moving.
The whole story is Carlos never beat me in any kind of sport.